Welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove, and I'm joined by a man whom Greg Berhalter did not confirm will start against Mexico tonight. It's not Serginho Dest, it's Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. It did feel like a personal attack when he went out of his way to say Taylor Rockwell will not be starting, but Serginho Dest will. I know. It didn't seem like information that needed to be volunteered.
Yeah, well, you have a big game on Sunday.
That's true. He wanted me to rest up. He sent me home from camp without ever calling me in.
So we're going to do listener questions today.
We are.
In advance of obviously watching USA-Mexico tonight. But there's been US men's national team news, which is in Berhalter's press conference. He was asked, will Serginho Dest start? Mm-hmm. And Berhalter straight up said yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the candid approach that Greg Berhalter occasionally takes. And it's why it seems to be he's viewed as like a breath of fresh air because he'll talk about those types of things when he feels like it.
There are a lot of non-answers, a lot of very diplomatic answers.
Yes.
So, yeah, sometimes he's like a politician, right? Mm-hmm. But this time he was like, no, I'm for gun control.
He went for it. And then in this case, I think while he made that announcement, he was also burning an orange shirt. Is that what he did as well to try to really get that point across?
Yeah, I mean, so for people who don't know, if Serginho Dest starts, when Serginho Dest starts for the US tonight against Mexico, at right back, left wing, right wing, or centre midfield.
One of those.
He will get a US cap. Mm-hmm. He will not be cap-tied.
He will not.
He cannot be cap-tied until October when we're playing the CONCACAF Nations League, which is official FIFA competition. Mm-hmm. So there's still the opportunity for Dest to play against Mexico, play against Uruguay, and then the Netherlands could say, hey, Serginho, what are you doing in October?
Yep.
And they could call him up for a Euro 2020 qualifier.
And I'll just go ahead and jump. We've got some scouting reports to get to, obviously very much later in the show.
Yeah.
But the very first one comes from Brian Hoysa, scouting Serginho Dest, 18-year-old American.
Scouting report ever on the show.
Yeah, it is. While in camp with the U.S. men's national team, Dest dropped some quotes that leave the door open to representing the Netherlands in the future. Dest said, quote, I'm happy for this opportunity, and I'm happy that I'm here right now, but I don't know for the future. You guys will see what happens, end quote. Then when asked if he'd accept a call-up to October's Nations League matches, which would, as you said, cap-tie him, he responded, quote, I don't know yet. I can't make that decision, end quote.
I mean, has he ever been to Cuba?
It's a lovely place unless you're playing soccer there, in which case it's less.
Yeah, the field wasn't
pleasant.
great.
Not so much, no.
That Havana field wasn't great.
So, I mean, to me, that says basically if the Netherlands come calling and offer him a strong route to the first team, I feel like he's going to take that. And I guess I can't really begrudge him as much as I would like to because born in the Netherlands, raised in the Netherlands, even though he's been with the U.S. throughout, I would be very sad.
Everything possible.
But that's the thing, is like it's not a situation in which they've messed it up. They haven't called him in. They haven't given him chances. I think he was surprised, but from what I've read, to even get a call-up to the senior national team at this point.
Really?
I'm guessing he'll be even more surprised.
Does he not know that he's been starting for Ajax?
I know, right? No, he said like it was a nice surprise when Greg Berhalter called me 2 weeks ago or something like that.
I don't think he means surprised, literally.
I don't know. Either way, he said the word surprise, so I'm going to take him at his word. But I feel like this is a case where they've played him at youth level, they've taken him to competitions, he's been involved.
U20 World Cup.
They've brought him into the senior national team. Now they're going to be starting him. I feel like they have done everything they possibly can to say you are a valued and important part of this team, and you will be going forward. But it's up to him what he wants to do.
Do you want my hot take?
Sure.
I don't think the Netherlands will panic and call up Serginho Dest for the senior Netherlands team at such a young age if he's not actually one of their best two right backs. I don't really know their depth chart so well. I know Dumfries seems to be the starting right back, but I don't imagine that Serginho Dest is like, if you were to just completely on merit about to pick a Dutch national team, you wouldn't put him in as your starting 11 right back, right? He's not even guaranteed starts at Ajax, so he should be guaranteed starts for the Dutch national team. And I don't think the Netherlands is the type of nation to panic about talent enough to do an emergency call-up.
No, I think it's any time, and again, you understand why he is going to have to make this decision and how that would be a very difficult choice to make. And so I think then when there's even one Dutch news story about how, hey, he might still be called in, we're going to lose this player, we should cap-tie him.
Yeah.
I think it brings about a lot more uncertainty from American fans and a lot more concern from American fans.
Yeah, we'll get the jitters.
Yeah, but but I'm with you that I doubt Ronald Koeman.
Orange jitters.
The orange jitters. I hope Ronald Koeman is not going to be calling him in to start at right back for the Netherlands, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
So actually the really interesting thing will be not if he's called up by the Netherlands and called up by the US in October, if he's only called up by the US, or if he's called up by the US and the Netherlands U19s or U21s. Then then it's a real test of do you want to do this or not?
It is.
Yeah.
And I guess my hope, not in any way even a theory or a thing that I think, it's more of just I hope this is the case, is that he is making the comments he's making now to see what happens, to try to force that hand a little bit. Maybe the Netherlands do say, yeah, you know what, actually, we want to give you a chance at right back, and then it's kind of worked. But if they say, well, we'll see, but we want to give you some time with the U19s, then maybe we'll move you through, then I think maybe he knows, okay, senior opportunities here, less senior opportunities there with a lot of other talent around, maybe I'll go to the U.S.
And let's just hope he enjoys his time with the U.S. Like, let's hope he enjoys the game against Mexico and against Uruguay. Let's hope he just enjoys spending time with this U.S. squad. Maybe Weston McKennie's big grin will keep Sergiño Dest happy.
I mean, that's a lot of pressure on Weston McKennie's grin, but I think it's a very nice grin. Yeah,
it can handle it.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
He's so smiley in all the photos. One extra bit of US roster news before we get on to listener questions. I'm not sure who reported it first, but I saw Doug McIntyre report that between the Mexico game on Friday and the Uruguay game on Tuesday, there will be 5 players leaving camp. So Christian Pulisic is one of them, unfortunately, so he won't be playing against Uruguay. John Brooks is also one of them. I think we were proponents of this, right? Of just bubble wrap John Brooks one game, then bubble wrap him and send him back.
Well, I wasn't as much until I'll jump ahead to say 2 of the other ones were Zach Steffen and Alfredo Morales. Worth noting that Dusseldorf plays Wolfsburg on Friday.
Yes, that's Brooks, Morales, and Steffen all involved in a game on Friday.
Right. So I would rather players be with the camp for as long as the camp exists to get them more experience, to have them all blend a bit more. But in this case, those 3 players, especially going back to play on Friday, I understand why you'd let them leave a game earlier, especially because, well, I guess for Steffen and Brooks at least, we kind of know where they are in this team. Maybe Morales, we don't, and that's one where I wouldn't have minded seeing him play against Uruguay, but I also understand why he won't. There's
been some speculation that Morales leaving early means he'll start against Mexico, which I'm not sure I buy. I think it does mean he'll play.
I think he'll play. Yeah. I think Will Trapp is probably going to start. That would be my guess. I may well be wrong, and I look forward to being wrong. But Will Trapp doing the press conference...
You're going to fall into that trap.
Yes, exactly, with 2 Ps. Will Trapp doing the press conference, Aaron Long doing the press conference. Has me feeling that
Trapp did the press conference.
Both of them will be there. And I think Greg Berhalter will be in charge, given that he also did a press conference.
That makes sense to me. Yeah, so maybe like 30 minutes from Morales towards the end. The other one we didn't talk about, Sean Johnson, is leaving, which would leave, so 2 goalkeepers going, Steffen and Johnson. That would leave
Guzan and Jesse Gonzalez.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
So we'll either get a youngster or an oldster playing against Uruguay.
Perfect.
Maybe a half each?
Yeah, I think so.
Nothing else to say in the US from me because the game is coming in 4.5 hours or so. But we can say we'll be back late Friday night, early Saturday morning with our review of the US's win over Mexico in New Jersey.
I would go ahead and guarantee it will be early Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Yes. But until then, we've still got some talking to do because we've got listener questions to answer.
Just to pass the time.
Just to pass the time. Just to pass the time. Why don't I ask you first?
Okay.
Joey Jedlowski asks, why don't they show the stoppage time in the stadium like they do on TV?
I'm going to say 2 reasons. 1, to avoid confusion, and 2, because the stoppage time is not guaranteed. It's a minimum of 4 minutes of added time. And I think if you actually put 4 minutes up on a clock in the stadium, the players can see it and they'd be like counting it down. The fans would be counting it down and everyone would be expecting the final whistle after that, say, 4 minutes expired. I'm just saying it's 4 minutes. But that's not the case, right? If there's a substitution within stoppage time, you add 30 seconds. If there's a goal, if there's some sort of stoppage within stoppage time, the stoppages within stoppages, you have to add more time. And I think it would just be confusing to have an incorrect amount of time on a clock in the stadium that everyone's referring to.
I would agree with that entirely. I would add the FIFA rules dictate that it's the center official who keeps track of the time or officially is in charge of the time.
Yeah, not the stadium clock guy.
No, exactly. So if you add 4 minutes and then everybody gets all upset because it said 4 minutes and now the opposition team scored 4 minutes and 15 seconds into injury time.
Yeah.
It's a minimum of 4 minutes. It's up to the referee's discretion. So I'm with you that I think it leads to less confusion, even if it seems slightly confusing when the clock's not going. But I think also there's a logistics element to it as well that you have to transition the stadium clock. I guess you could just keep it going, but I think they're programmed to stop at 45 and 90.
Yeah.
So then you have to make sure that you transition at the exact right moment and add that extra time on for a stadium that maybe isn't necessarily used to doing that, whereas it's easy to just add that digital graphic for viewers at home.
So the reasons are technological, confusion, and also it wouldn't be accurate.
Exactly. All of those things. All right.
Next question comes from Zach Lippert. It's, I think, somewhat US men's national team related.
Oh, you think?
Zach asks, how hard is it to hit a diagonal crossfield ball? So often I've heard that Bradley is the only player in the pool that can hit that pass. Trapp as well, right? But it seems like long switches of play should be in most central midfielders' lockers. Is this an indictment of our central midfield talent that not enough players can hit that diagonal pass well?
Okay. So a couple things here. I would add, first off, that it's not just the diagonal ball when we're talking about Michael Bradley. It's specifically how he hits it into a very tight space that makes a big difference. But before I even get into that, I would add that we should have players who can play that long diagonal ball. But if you go and watch, a lot of times long and is like the operative word there, that it's high up in the air, it's floated, it's lofted, it's easy to cut out, it's easy for defenders to make a play on.
Which is why it's so hard to get right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Bradley's sort of driven ball that is able to like sit up or like into a very tight, like 5-yard space for a fullback running onto it. When you see him hit it, there'll be those moments where you're like, oh, that's definitely going out of bounds. It's definitely going to be a throw in. It's definitely going to be a goal kick. There's no way. Oh, no, it held up perfectly, and the defender brings it down. That's what I think he is so adept at. But it's not even that he can do it and no one else can. It's that I think he can do it sort of naturally. It's a thing he looks for
that's
right
it.
now.
I think that's it.
Yeah. And
I can hit a diagonal crossfield ball. You can hit a diagonal crossfield ball. But I think maybe me more than you, it would take me a couple of seconds at least to like settle the ball, think about it, get the confidence to hit it, all that kind of stuff. And I think you could say the same for Tyler Adams, right? It would take him longer to hit a diagonal crossfield ball accurately than it takes Michael Bradley because he just does it. Because Bradley just does it naturally.
Yeah, I mean, like this is obviously an extreme oversimplification, but you could probably go out right now and hit a golf ball okay. But if you played golf, okay,
I could hit a soccer ball okay. I could not hit a golf ball.
All right.
Okay.
Well, some people. I'll put myself in. I haven't played golf in a very long time. I feel like I could go out and hit a golf ball decently okay.
All right.
But it's not a thing where I know like perfectly exactly how to do it in the moment. I can feel it. I have the rhythm, and I just swing right through and hit it perfectly. You can get there eventually, maybe, but Michael Bradley, I think, can already do that right now. And I think more to the point, there's a couple different things that Berhalter wants Bradley to do that he can do that other players cannot right yet. So Bradley is in that kind of core squad until other players come along who can do those things just as well, and then other things even better. And that's when I think we see Michael Bradley start to get phased out.
Yeah, and Bradley's what, 31? We can phase him out over a few years, right? Let's not be in a rush to get rid of Michael Bradley.
No.
What about Zach's idea that it's an indictment of our central midfield talent that not enough players can hit that pass well?
I see where that perspective comes from, but for me, it's more about like other players can do that. But like, say it's Tyler Adams in that number 6 role, he's not necessarily doing that for RB Leipzig. It's not a thing that he's necessarily doing in his day-to-day career. So maybe when he gets the ball, he's looking to kind of keep it on the floor, play 10 and 15-yard balls. But if Berhalter wants him to play that ball over the top, I'm sure one day he can do that.
Yeah.
But I just think of it as like it's not what he's naturally inclined to do right now. So it takes him actively thinking about it and learning how to do it, whereas maybe Berhalter wants to try 5 other things in this game, and he just needs somebody in there who can do that one thing naturally that doesn't require coaching.
I'd also add, I don't disagree with any of that, I'd also add that there's also a bigger picture thing of Berhalter is the first US coach to say, we're going to play this Dutch-style system that has this controlling midfielder that you need big diagonal balls from. This hasn't happened at like U17, U20, U23 level. We haven't been asking for these types of players, right? We haven't been saying this is a player that is always central to what the US does. That's probably why there just aren't so many of them.
Right.
It's why you can't like rattle off 10 players who can hit big diagonals regularly because they're just not asked to do it.
No, they're not.
And maybe they can, but they're not asked to do it, so we don't see them do it.
Right. And I don't disagree with anything you said. And my final point then...
Are we agreeable today?
We are.
Have you missed me? Is that way?
A little bit. Yeah. A little bit. Plus, you're wearing a nice shirt. You look good. It makes me... It's just... You seem more trustworthy.
I went to the Ledbury Wear. So.
When you're wearing like the loose neck t-shirt, I don't know if I can trust you. My final thing would just be that... Like,
so shallow.
I am who I am, Daryl. Bradley, like, I am saying this completely without looking at any statistics, but I struggle to think of times when Bradley plays that ball and it consistently goes out of bounds. It is not to me like Bradley hits that 1 out of every 4 times or 1 out of every 5 times. I think he's pretty good at doing it regularly, whereas I think if you had another midfielder come in and try to do that, they'll get there eventually, but similar to my golf analogy, but in the meantime, they'll slice a few and mishit a few and overhit the green.
Yeah.
And then you don't have that kind of natural pattern of play that you would if Michael Bradley's in there.
Well, we have another question on a similar topic.
All right.
Are you ready? It's from Matt R. He didn't want to give his second name, so he knows it's a controversial question. Maybe.
That's fair.
Matt R. asks, is there a difference between a ball-pinging 6, the Michael Bradley role, and a ball-pinging centre-back like Abby Dahlkemper on the US women's national team? And second part of the question, if the US men's national team had a Dahlkemper-style centre-back who could hit those pinging diagonal balls, would that open up our options at the number 6?
I mean, I think John Brooks can do that. I think John Brooks is more than capable of playing long diagonal balls and playing driven balls into feet. I think his distribution is very good. It's part of the reason why Berhalter likes him so much. It's part of the reason why we like him so much.
Zimmerman and Long, almost the same.
Yeah, I would agree. So I got confused there for a moment because it was Zimmerman and Long almost the same. And for some reason I was like, is there another center back in their name almost? I got confused. But
almost Miles Robinson.
See, there we go. Yeah, that's it.
Who actually, we have seen evidence of him over-hitting those balls. Right?
Yes, or putting too much loft on them.
Yes, they're almost there, but they're not quite.
Yeah. But the big thing for me is that like John Brooks can do that, but John Brooks can't do it 30 yards further up the field. Where we've seen Michael Bradley 30 yards from goal turn and play this exact diagonal that we're talking about to the corner flag when there's an advancing fullback to get there. If you have John Brooks all the way up that field, it's a little bit riskier, whereas with the U.S. women's national team, they're more likely to have a lot of possession and be able to commit numbers further forward without really exposing themselves.
Abby Dahlkemper's over the halfway line a lot of the time when she's already doing this, right? Because the U.S. is so up on top of teams. Yeah.
And
Thailand.
And even then, it's like they've got numbers in the middle. They've got they can play through the middle if they want to. They use that ball almost as a like third tier option of okay, this didn't work and this didn't work. Now I'll play that long ball out to the person who's standing on the touchline. The U.S. men, I don't think that's necessarily as much of their tactic. So I think having Bradley be able to pull it out when he needs to, but be able to effectively pull it out is the differentiator there for me.
I also think there's a really important thing here where the basis of Matt asking this question seems to be the thing we were talking about earlier about we don't have any other players who at number 6 can hit that diagonal ball. I think Matt's trying to solve the problem, right? By still having the diagonal ball, but have it come from someone else so that, say, Tyler Adams or someone could play the 6 instead of Bradley. What I think is there's become too much focus on the diagonal ball in that number 6 role. It's not just that, right? That's not the only reason that a player plays there. That number 6 role for Berhalter is the controlling midfielder. In Italian, it would be like the regista, right? So it's not just about diagonal balls. It's about controlling the tempo, short passing, setting the rhythm, just being in control of midfield and making sure that possession is maintained and that we open up space and the ball progresses. So it's not just big diagonals. It's all the other passing as well. And you can't have a centre-back do that. You've got to have a midfielder do that.
And I know we talk about Michael Bradley a lot, oftentimes to defend why we still defend Michael Bradley, and I'm going to do that here. Because I think if you ask Greg Berhalter, what are the 4 or 5 things that you most want out of that number 6 for your national team, my guess would be that Michael Bradley ticks 4 or 5 of those boxes. And I think the long ball...
Bold, lives in Canada.
Shaved head. That's a big one.
Dad was a national team coach.
That's obviously one. But it's like, I think of it more as like...
Once got mad at Jim Rome.
There we go. Perfect. Did he? I don't remember that one.
Or was it Eric Ronaldo? I can't remember.
It was probably Ronaldo. That feels more like a Ronaldo thing. But for Bradley, I think it's like it's because Berhalter talked about it this week in the press conference that Trapp and Bradley can play. I'm not acknowledging these anymore. Trapp and Bradley can play these long diagonals, and I think people focus on that because he explicitly stated that.
Yeah.
But I bet if you asked him to list in like order of importance, that's maybe like the 4th or 5th thing, if not even lower down. So it's just that Bradley can do a number of different things that Berhalter wants, and one of which is successfully pull off that ball, which might be 7th on the list. But if you're going all the way down to number 7 and you're still doing it the way the coach wants, then that's why you're still going to be there.
I think that's exactly it. And I think maybe the diagonal ball is just the most noticeable.
Yeah.
So that's the one that it's the one Berhalter goes to when someone asks him because it's like an easy example to give because then it sort of passes the eye test, right? You can watch a game and Bradley does that and you're like, oh yeah, there it is. But there's lots of other little passes, short, medium passes that are just as important for playing that holding midfield role.
And final point is that Greg Berhalter doesn't care if he lived in Italy. He cares if he lived in Germany. That's what he wants out of that central midfielder. So he's fine there.
Mönchengladbach.
There it is, see?
All right, many more questions to come today. About 5 or so. But first, today's Total Soccer Show, which is the podcast you're listening to, is sponsored by...
You said that like you weren't entirely sure it was.
I like to check.
All right.
It's sponsored by HelloFresh. HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. You get easy, seasonable recipes, and pre-measured ingredients delivered right to your door. All you have to do is cook and enjoy.
There we are. And they provide step-by-step recipes with pre-measured ingredients, so you'll have everything you need to get a wow-worthy dinner on the table in just 30 minutes. And I want to emphasize that for a moment because I've talked recently many times how excited I am to have my wife is working again, dual income, hooray. But it is the case then, like she brought this up yesterday, that it's harder to have, especially like we've talked about maybe theoretically, possibly, potentially one day possibly having children. And we've talked about like if she's working...
I love your commitment.
Yeah, no. But she was talking yesterday about like if we have kids and I'm working and you're working, like how do we have time to come home and make dinner? And I think it is about like simplifying the recipes, simplifying your approach. You can't make an elaborate many step dinner unless you have, say, a recipe card that explains how to do those steps succinctly so you can get that meal on the table as quickly as possible.
So there'll be less trips to the grocery store, fewer trips to the grocery store.
Thank you, Stannis.
Excuse me. Yeah, there we go. Worked out well for him, right?
And then with what I'm talking about, also they have like different plans. You have the family recipes, calorie smart recipes, vegetarian ones. So if you want to be like vegetarian and family, then they've got you covered. It's perfect.
And you don't get stuck in the rut, which is, honestly, if you have, from what I understand, if you have kids and you both have jobs and you're both coming home from work and having to get
chicken nuggets
done,
and fries.
You can just
Hot
get
dogs.
into what's the easiest thing, what's the thing that my frazzled brain
Yep.
can manage to do. But if you open up a HelloFresh box, it's almost like someone's walking you through it, giving you all the ingredients. That's how you get out of the rut.
Yeah. And I think even like, colorful pictures, you give the kid, you put them on a
happy-looking cards, right?
Yeah, and you set your kid on a stool in the kitchen, and then they can like check off as you go, and now they've got responsibility. They're taking ownership of the meal. You're teaching them responsibility.
It's Chekhov's meal.
Yeah, perfect.
Once you get the box, you have to cook it. You can also easily change your delivery days, your food preferences. You can even skip a week if you need to. Say you go on vacation for a week and you don't want the box.
I can't believe it's taken us this long to get a Chekhov's gun reference into this show. I'm kind of shocked by that. But what I'm also shocked by is what kind of a discount HelloFresh will offer you.
You're really shocked? This is like the 20th time we've read this
It still kind of blows my mind. It's a lot of money. For $80 off your first month of HelloFresh, go to HelloFresh.com/TSS80 and enter the code TSS80.
Ooh, what was that again?
One more time, that's HelloFresh.com/TSS80 and the promo code is TSS80 for $80 off your first month of HelloFresh.
Thank you to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's Total Soccer show.
Agreed. Next question comes from Greg Slater, who asks...
Oh, it's a long one.
Oh, boy.
Take a deep breath before
All right, I'm going to prepare. Okay. I've just watched Sofiane Boufal receive the ball in the box for Southampton versus Manchester United.
So this is this past weekend, I guess?
Yes.
Yeah.
A defender closed him down quickly, so there was no open shot, but instead of passing to a teammate, he continued to try a cutting move inside to get the shot off, eventually shooting directly into a defender. Brian Fernandes has also been doing this a lot for the Timbers. Does seeing attackers do this bother you as much as it bothers me, and why don't coaches discourage it more?
I'm going to guess, since Greg took the time to ask this question, it doesn't bother me as much as it bothers Greg.
Correct.
I understand the frustration, but I also understand why strikers do it, right? They're just trying to open up a bit of space and get a shot.
I mean, my number one note here is shooter's going to shoot.
Shooter's going to shoot.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what you've been told to do, which I think is worth noting there, especially if your manager has told you we're prioritizing getting shots as often as we can, especially inside the box.
Yeah.
Then, because there was the story about like Louis van Gaal when he wanted people to take an extra touch and slow it down. But if your coach has said like, no, once you're in the box, I want those shots, then it's kind of understandable why the head would go down, and it's more about I want to create an individual shooting opportunity as opposed to looking to pass around the box.
And I don't deeply know what Hasenhüttl's doing at Southampton, but I do know it's about quick transitions, so it's not going to be about slow possession builder, right? But just as a general principle, I totally get that there are players who do this. Like, say, Harry Kane is always trying to just open up that bit of space and get the shot away, even when there are defenders massed in front of him. And I think as long as you have some level of success, it's completely acceptable. Like a 1 out of 10 success rate is actually not acceptable. 4 out of 10 success rate and getting a shot on target, I think is acceptable. Yeah, it's worth the risk, right? Otherwise, you're just passing it around endlessly.
Exactly. And I think, like, also for every time a person... Let me back that up. Like, basically, I think there will be times when you see that, like, this player, Sofiane Boufal, for example, will cut inside, get that shot off, the shot is blocked, and you'll see all his teammates who are open, all looking very annoyed and, like, pointing at their feet in a, hey, I was open, you should have passed me the ball. But you will also see that when he scores, or when that forward scores, you'll still see the teammates around them all kind of annoyed they didn't get the ball, but then realize, like, oh, we scored, I should probably go celebrate. And so, like, I think there's always going to be open passing options. It comes down to, like, what the player has been told to do or what their inclination is in that moment. And I think if you sense there's a shooting opportunity, it's a thing I've experienced playing, obviously not at this level, but it's like once you feel like it's on, or you feel like if I can just cut around this defender and then get the shot off, if you think that's on, your brain is no longer ever thinking I'm going to pass. It is always I'm cutting and shooting, and the kind of pass goes out the window.
It's kind of worth the risk as well.
I think so.
Because I genuinely think you need at least one or maybe two of those players on your team. Otherwise, you're just a team passing it around in circles, right? You need someone who's willing to be a little bit selfish, take the extra risk, get the shot away.
agreed. I would add a key thing that you said there was a little bit selfish.
Yeah.
And that is where I do agree with Greg a little bit is when you see a player do that every single time. If they're always dribbling into a defender trying to get a shot off, if they're always shooting from 30 yards out, something like that.
During the Saracen era, definitely, there was Julian Green would constantly be just looking for a shot every single time.
Yeah, and I mean, it's what frustrates me about Marcus Rashford for Manchester United. It's that idea of like, if you do this...
He has a higher success rate.
Sometimes not. Against Southampton, he didn't. But I feel like if you're always doing the same thing and you're not executing it properly, then that's where I get frustrated. If it's the defender, or if it's a forward cutting inside every single time to the point where the defense knows it's going to happen, they just wait and they just poke it away, then that's where I start to think, okay, you got to diversify a little bit, my friend, or you got to look to pass one or the other.
Anything else to say on this before we move on?
No, I'm good.
All right, I think we answered.
All
right, Patrick Delaney. Mm-hmm. Patrick Delaney has a question that I kind of didn't want to ask because it makes Wolves fans look bad, but here we go.
Yeah.
Patrick Delaney says, in the Everton v Wolves game, there were Wolves fans singing "Sign On" at Everton, and some people were very mad about that. What is the history of this song, and why does it make people so angry?
So obviously Daryl is going to know the intricacies of this way better than I. I will give you my approximated summary / basic understanding as I have it.
Okay.
Which is essentially it seems to be Liverpool, I think going back to the 80s and maybe like economic downturn, seemed to be the city that was maybe most hit or most publicly hit. And
national, it was twice the unemployment rate nationally. The national unemployment rate in Liverpool, it was double.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So
there's, for those who don't know, Everton is within Liverpool.
Yeah. Thank you. This is why you're here.
Let's call it Merseyside.
But I remember there were Man United fans chanting about hubcaps, stealing hubcaps and stuff like that. And I think it always goes back to basically making fun of a city for essentially having poverty issues. And in this case, sign on, I'm assuming, relates to benefits or government, whatever.
It's signing on to the dole. It is literally, if you're unemployed, you had to go to the Department of Social Services and you had to fill out a form requesting unemployment benefits and you'd sign it.
Yeah.
So it's referred to as signing on.
Yeah.
Right. And then the obvious thing is, sorry, if you had more to say, I
would just say
before I go into full information mode.
It's I'm not genuinely not trying to take a shot here, but it would be the equivalent of making fun of Pistons fans because their city went bankrupt, and so it's sort of you're poor is essentially the joke, which is right there. See how hard Daryl laughed at that hilarious joke? Exactly.
There we go.
Yeah. It's dumb, is what I'm saying.
Some extra context for this is "Sign On" is sung to the tune of "Walk On," "Walk On" with hope in your hand. It's "Sign On" with a pen in your hand.
Yeah.
Is what people used to sing.
Which is kind of dumb because it's how the hell else are you going to sign?
Well, yeah. Well, I think it was to mirror the lyrics of "You'll Never Walk Alone," right?
Yeah.
And the genesis of this is in the 80s, like you said, there was this weird disparity where Liverpool Football Club were the best team in England.
Yeah.
Through the 70s and the 80s, they were just undoubtedly far and away the best team. So if you're singing songs at the opposition, you can't sing songs about how Peter Beardsley can't dribble or John Barnes can't cross or Ian Rush can't score because Liverpool are destroying everybody. So if you're going to have an attack on the other team, the only thing that you could do to attack Liverpool and the city of Liverpool was to sing about unemployment in that city. Do you know what I'm saying?
As the seminal cinematic masterpiece Bring It On taught us, there was the cheerleader chant of "That's all right, that's okay, you're going to work for us someday, or you're going to pump our gas someday."
Right, it's
similar
kind of
thing. It's
that,
if you're losing, you attack them for a different way. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, because there's no way to actually attack the football team because they're probably winning 3-0.
Also, Kirsten Dunst's best movie.
Yeah, but it's also worth noting that Liverpool was in economic trouble in the 80s. The docks were closing. There were loads of. I was reading a photography exhibit of stuff in Liverpool in the 80s, and it said that 80,000 manufacturing jobs were lost between 72 and 82. 80,000. So that's factory jobs, jobs on the docks, things like that. If you go to Liverpool now, Liverpool has had this massive economic resurgence. The docks are now full of museums and cafes, and it's just a much different looking city than it was in the 80s. So it's such an old fashion thing for Wolves fans to be singing. I mean, one, it's just mean, right? There's it's not good at all. And two, it's completely out of date and completely unoriginal. This is one of those times where I absolutely stand against those away Wolves fans. I've had some bad experiences with away Wolves fans that I've not enjoyed their behaviour on certain trips that I've been on, including this one.
It tends to be from my.
Sorry, I was on this trip, but you know what I'm saying.
I gotcha. Yeah. But from my perspective, I feel like it tends to be that the away fans in Premier League games are simultaneously the best fans because they're the ones who are going to be most hardcore, sing the whole time, be really into it. Yeah. But also that then lends itself to being the worst fans at the same time.
Yeah, because you're willing to go places where other fans wouldn't go.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there you go. That's the context of sign on, and also why you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. It's cheap. Let's do one more.
Yeah, one more question. Good idea.
Michael Ginn, I believe it's my question. It feels like this transfer window was full of huge stars looking for moves that couldn't get them done. Has the bubble finally burst on transfer market prices, or did we just have an oddly high number of undesirable superstars this time around?
I think if we have to choose A or B, has the bubble finally burst on transfer market prices, or did we just have an oddly high number of undesirable superstars? I'd go A.
I go C.
C?
Neither is my answer. Yeah.
Well, let me give my rationale first, which is I think with a lot of the players that you think of, say Neymar is obviously a big one, wanted to leave PSG. There was strong rumours that Barcelona were after him. In the end, Barcelona literally couldn't afford the 200 million or so euros it would have taken to get Neymar because they'd already spent money on Griezmann and on Frankie de Jong and I think some other players.
Yeah.
I read a great story by Julian Laurent.
I think they spent like 30 million on a new keeper. So yeah.
I was reading a story for ESPN FC by Julian Laurent about why the transfer failed, and it's essentially that he argues that they just in the end didn't have the money.
By the way, I don't know if it was 30 million. Barca fans, please don't email us.
They tried a part exchange with Ousmane Dembele. Dembele was like, I'm not going to Paris. No. I'll play for Barcelona. So I think in the end, you could say the transfer market bubble has burst because the top-end players have just actually become, in some cases, unaffordable. Yes. Gareth Bale's wages are unaffordable. That's why he couldn't really go anywhere else, right?
Yes. So I agree with everything you said. It's just that, I don't mean to be difficult, but I take issue with the has the bubble burst? Because no. To your point, Barcelona spent as much money as they possibly could, which is still hundreds of millions of euros. At that point, no, there's still plenty of money to be spent. So the bubble hasn't necessarily burst, but I think prices have gone
up against some edges, right?
Yeah.
It means that you can't get Griezmann and De Jong and the mystery new goalkeeper and Neymar all in one summer.
I mean, and there was a couple other ones. They had a busy summer, Barcelona, but I think it's somewhere kind of in between with the options that we were given from Michael and then a few other factors, because I think financial fair play is a huge part of that, as well as just the rapid inflation, I guess, or how quickly the prices have gone up, that it used to probably be it was a lot to spend 100 million in a window, but you could buy 3 very good players for 30 million, and it was that's not that big of a deal. Now you're buying one player for not even 90 million. It's a lot harder to then go out and buy a couple more.
Yeah. Griezmann for 125 blows my mind.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean,
and I think he's really good. But there's just a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. And it establishes the precedent as well. And so I think if you don't want to keep that precedent going, if now suddenly Barcelona are only signing 100 million pound players every window, then people start to ask for more money and it becomes harder and harder.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that's part of it. But I also think another weird element is how often these types of transfers, the bigger transfers, even smaller ones, come down to almost a domino effect of this team wants to buy this player, but they need to offload this player first, so they want to offload him to this team, but that team can't buy that player until they offload their player. And so sometimes when that domino gets stuck, those transfers get stuck. And I do think that happened here, that there was a moment when it was I did this the other day when I was going to do a transfer quiz with you, when I think I tracked it 7 moves down of Barca want this player, but they have to sell this player. That team wants that player, but they have to sell this player. You can go all the way down, and it's a lot of big names in there that kind of factor into the equation.
Yeah.
And I think if that domino doesn't start to fall, then that logjam occurs.
There we go. Yeah, I think that's the correct answer. Yeah. And there's just so much money that also just becomes unaffordable to spend over the odds, right?
Yeah, yes. And my final note on that with spending over the odds is that you can justify it when it's certain types of players who you feel either you're PSG and you want to make an impact, so we're going to spend a ton of money to get Mbappe and Neymar, who at that time was, I would say, the 3rd best player in the world, in my opinion. And so you got to kind of shell out some money to get this incredibly exciting young French player from your kind of closest rival in terms at that point with Monaco. And then with Neymar, you've got to kind of spend a ton of money to get him there. But I think now Neymar is not that same Neymar. And so are you going to spend as much money as you would have to get in a guy who has been erratic and been injury prone and hasn't always looked like the most committed? Probably not.
So do you think maybe there's an element on Barca's part where, I don't know, maybe they could have gone and got some big loan or something, but they're looking at Neymar and thinking, do we really want to spend 200 million on this guy?
Yeah, I mean, Graham Ruthven, when he was on the show, made the point that Barcelona can print money. They can go out and sign any sponsor they want for any rate they want.
I can print money, but I'll go to jail.
But Barcelona can go out. They could easily do what Manchester United do. They could easily sign a Japanese noodle sponsor for 50 million and a couple of those, and you're able to afford Neymar. It comes down to
the Neymar noodle sponsor.
I mean, that's the way to do it, and they have that ability because they have that brand. But then do you want to do that? Do you want to kind of risk the financial fair play investigation for a player who, again, would have to drop a lawsuit against you to come back?
Been a little bit injured the last year or so.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. And there's commitment issues as well in there. Doesn't always...
always making his sister's birthday party somehow,
exactly. It seems very important. Yes. So I think that also explains it, because Neymar is a strange case. So too is Gareth Bale with that in mind, and that's another one who didn't move.
Who else didn't move? Christian Eriksen, I would put on the list, maybe as someone who it seems like was going to move, and maybe even Pochettino thought was going to move, and then in the end, no one came in for him, as far as I can tell.
Or at least like not publicly to the extent that we ever heard about it.
Or not with an offer that Spurs wanted to accept, let's put it that way.
Yeah, and then Pogba, I think, was the other one you mentioned before we started recording.
Yeah. So Pogba to Real Madrid was strongly rumoured all through last season.
Apparently he was like on the short list of like the 3 or 5 players or whatever that Zidane wanted guaranteed before he would sign back on.
Is that part of your domino theory, that maybe if Real Madrid had been able to offload, say, Gareth Bale, then maybe there's more Pogba money?
Yeah, I think Gareth Bale was an issue, and then I think just like there seems to still be some discontent between Zidane and Perez and everything that's going on with Real Madrid, and so I feel like maybe it just wasn't a unified, like, those teams like Barcelona, for example, like they're, even if there's questions about Valverde, it's a very like unified front in terms of this is how we are, we win titles, we're very all together. If Madrid had that a bit more, if it were like coming off of, we've just won 3 Champions Leagues in a row, Zidane is apparently somehow the best manager in the world, we want to bring in Paul Pogba, I think that is much more alluring than we've kind of had some downturn, Lopetegui didn't work, Zidane's coming in, but then there's still some feuding, and we got to get rid of some players, and we brought in Hazard. It makes it harder, I think, for sure.
I forgot they brought in Hazard. Yeah.
But that's the other thing. Again, sorry to keep this going, but like Barcelona had already brought in Griezmann. Like, that's a huge signing. Real Madrid had already brought...
was one of the most like treasured players going. Yeah.
He's like, what, another 80 million or something like that? Yeah. Maybe it's not that much. I forget. But like...
He's like 75, I think.
Yeah, it's a lot. And so that right there, there's 2 huge signings. Madrid had already signed Eden Hazard. That's a lot of money. You look at some of the other like young players they brought through that still cost them a lot of money. Yeah. So they're still spending. It's just you can't sign as many players if you're going to spend that much.
Is it our expectations are too high of what these big clubs should do in terms of spending? Like, signing Hazard for like 100 million is already like, that should be it, right? That should be your Christmas shopping done.
It should be. I think that's what's confusing, is that money simultaneously...
Well, you gotta buy 5 more presents.
Which all are equally expensive somehow. Yeah. But it's like, money has no meaning, but then also simultaneously is incredibly important. That like, you can buy a player for 120 million euros that seems insane, but also at the same time they're like, oh yeah, but then we can't afford anything else, but also we can, but we really can't. It's just this strange, like, I think nobody knows entirely.
You're spending it all on Duolingo for Gareth Bale.
Exactly. Who then won't take it, and it will sit unused and unupdated on his phone.
Matt Doyle has learned Spanish faster than Gareth Bale.
He certainly has. There's somebody else who
Congrats to Matt Doyle, by the way. I really enjoyed his tweet saying that he'd got to a certain level on Duolingo.
I'm sure somebody
the bird terrorized him enough to get him.
Somebody else did that recently, though. I forget who it was, that they like learned Spanish through just Duolingo. Like a player, like a famous player did that, like just learned Spanish by doing Duolingo like all the I forget who it was.
I'm kind of tempted.
Yeah.
How impressed would you be if I one day came in the office and was talking Spanish?
Mucho.
What if I did a podcast with the Cooligans and we just started speaking Spanish and we left you out?
I would be very surprised. That is my answer to that question.
Oh.
We do have a couple more questions to get to, as well as some scouting, but first we should get to today's sponsor.
Yeah.
Roughneck Scarves.
Roughneck Scarves.
Our oldest sponsor friends.
They are, right? And not because they're old, but because they've just been around a long time.
They sure have.
With us. They are the official scarf providers of US Soccer,
correct.
Major League Soccer,
also correct.
USL,
still correct.
and the NCAA.
Also correct.
They also let you make your own custom scarves.
Do they
if
now?
you want to like fundraise for a thing you've got going on or for someone else, you can have a scarf created on their website, then you buy it, they ship it to you, and you can just sell it, and then you phase 3 is profits.
Phase 3 profit. And as we...
Stage 3? I can't remember if it's phase or stage with the...
I think it's phase 3. I think.
All right. So we...
Phase 1. Yeah, phase 1.
We put out the tweet. Sorry, I derailed us. We put out the tweet.
I think it's the 3rd time we've referenced Underpants and Gnomes in the last week,
It's probably the 100th time on the show. Yeah. We put out a tweet. If you were to design a custom Roughneck scarf to represent your prediction for tonight's USA v Mexico game, what would it look like? We got all kinds of answers, Taylor, but we can't read them all out.
We did get many, man. So many that I'm now having to scroll back through them all because there are many to get to.
All right, I'll get us started then.
Sure.
Steve Renard, who we met at the Audi Field, right, said his custom scarf would have Dest in a USA jersey and a happy Twitter bird on one side, Dest in an orange jersey and a sad, mutinous Twitter bird on the other.
Similar vein there.
I missed a chance to say Angry Bird, I feel like.
That's copyrighted. We can't say that. We're going to bleep that out. Jose Lopez, similar vein, an image of Dutch coaches wearing orange, looking over the stadium wall, stealthily scouting Dest, with Dest being the only U.S. men's national team player not wearing a crest. Meanwhile, I guess on the other side, Greg Berhalter holding the missing crest and trying to give it to Dest, but over Dest's shoulder is Jonathan Gonzalez.
That's a lot of detail.
It's a lot of details.
It's a lot of details. There's a lot of Dest so far in the answers. I'm going to go to one from Totally Not J.R. Smith, who had a nice simple idea for a USA-Mexico scarf. A 2 on one side and a 0 on the other side. And as Matt Doyle would know, that's dos on one side, a 0 on the other side.
Where should we go next? Should we do Rapino Noir? Do you like that one?
I haven't seen it, but yeah, please do.
A tweet with Berhalter's lineup that inevitably starts Zardes, Trapp, and Guzan on one side.
Avoid any Zardes jokes.
And me watching the new season of Mindhunter instead on the other.
I mean, if you're not committed to the national team, go ahead and don't watch.
Yeah, but just watch the game and then watch Mindhunter afterwards. And also, if you're not watching Mindhunter, you should be watching Mindhunter.
All right, one final one.
Bill Tench might be my favorite character on television right now.
Who?
Bill Tench. He's one of the investigators. He's great. He's great. I like Bill.
All right. The Hamburglar77 says, Trapp as Thanos, and on the other side it says, I am inevitable.
I don't know why I find that so funny, but I do. It's funny because it's also kind of tragic.
Then we have Captain Morales taking him down.
Yes, perfect. Is that who he is? Okay, cool. I like that.
It's like a Captain Marvel pun, but it didn't quite work.
No, I'm good with it.
But
also, I like the idea of Alfredo Morales in your mind being the most powerful being in like the known universe. I'm good with that.
Well, see, he was human originally.
Okay. What I'm going to do...
That movie, actually, it's not bad at all.
Which one?
Captain Marvel was pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there thought that it was bad?
Some people were not as excited about it.
Well, Daryl, that's because it's a woman.
I think, honestly, I think that might have been it.
Oh, you think?
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. I'm going to guess the people who didn't like that movie also really loved that one scene in the last Avengers movie when it was all the women. I'm sure that went over really well as well.
They also hate the new Doctor Who.
And Ghostbusters.
Yes. Yeah. So predictable.
Is it? It is. Yes. Yes. Less predictable is all the designs that you can do with your custom scarf option at Roughneck Scarves. But if you want to do a standard scarf, they have many options, as we've already said. They have a lot of international teams. It's the international window. So if you wanted to support a team, you could do so there, and you could do so by getting 20% off, Daryl.
You can. You go to roughneckscarves.com. Link will be in the show notes. Use the discount code Total Soccer Show, all one word, Total Soccer Show. You get 20% off any scarf you purchase at roughneckscarves.com, including all those US Women's National Team scarves with the players' names on them, which are those officially licensed ones, right? The players are actually making money off of those scarves.
Yay!
So go get some of those.
Make that money.
Make that money. It. Help the USWNT make that money.
Help them do that. Daryl, how many more questions? 2 more to go?
2 more to go.
All right.
You got it in you?
I think it's your turn to ask this one. But yes, I do, sir. Yes, I do.
John Martin asks, has the new goal kick rule had a noticeable impact on the way games are played?
I think so. But I think so mostly because I really like this rule change.
Okay. Can you explain it first, just in case people don't know
Sure.
It's
essentially, it used to be that if you're taking a goal kick, like any player, like the first time they can touch it is once it's cleared the 18. So all the players have to be outside the 18-yard box in order to receive any sort of pass from the goalkeeper. The new rule is that the team that is taking the goal kick, their players can receive the ball inside the 18.
Yep.
The opposition cannot be inside the 18 until the kick is taken.
It's made building from the back easier, right? At least the first part.
And I think it's also the bigger thing for me. Yes, it's definitely at least like helped with that to some extent, depending on how effectively you can pull it off. But the biggest thing is it just gets the game underway way faster because previously, you've got the ball kid's right there. Ball goes out of bounds. Kid throws it back in. Goalkeeper could get it going right away, but you have to wait for everybody to get out of the box. The defense then sets up, so you have to kind of evaluate like who's open and who's not.
You have to see, can I play a short pass or is it all marked up?
And then you have to eventually like wave everybody forward, and then you take the goal kick. But if you're really, really, really focused on playing short, then you can basically put the ball down and kick it to a person who's standing a yard away, and now play is resumed. And I think that's been the most noticeable one for me that and the way I guess I can clock this one is that way more frequently than I ever experienced before, they will show the replay of the shot that's gone wide, that's led to the goal kick, and when they cut back, play has already very much resumed.
Whereas a lot of haven't caught up.
No, and I think it's really hard to because play is getting back underway so fast. Because I think that is a deliberate tactic: is put it back in play before the team has like set themselves up to defend, and you might get an attacking opportunity. So I think that is where I've seen the biggest impact.
It's also perfectly timed, right? Because it coincides with an era where teams are not settling for long balls. Teams are not settling for just playing it long on goal kicks. Way more teams than previously want to build from the back, including the US men's national team, right? It's just not a thing we ever thought about. It always used to be Tim Howard kicks it long and then we build from there. But now it is like Stefan gives it to a defender and we build from there.
Yeah.
And I also like it because it immediately puts players under pressure. Because if you play it short inside the box, then the defenders I guess they're forwards, but they're the non-possession team, can enter and challenge you. You're already in actually kind of a dangerous-ish situation, right? So it makes it more exciting for me because suddenly there's danger of possession being turned over. Then the defender has to do something skillful or impressive to get himself out of trouble. So it adds an element of excitement to the game from the get-go.
This is me nodding. I agree entirely. I think we've answered that one.
Wow, all right.
All right, then the final question of this episode comes from Shreyas Ramani, who asks, do you think Leicester have the squad to be a dark horse top 6 contender this season?
So I was going to say no to this question because I feel like the top 6 is always the top 6. It's Man City, Liverpool, Spurs, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United in some order, right? Obviously, they want to be in the top 4. If they miss out, they end up being 5th and 6th. And I was we went and got coffee, right, before we started recording. And I was saying this to you, that I feel like this is obvious. Even if you have a really good season, like Wolves did last year, if you're not one of those top 6 teams, you're going to finish 7th, right? Like Wolves did last year. But then you made the point that Chelsea are having a wacky old season.
Yeah, I mean, Chelsea, not alone. Man United have not looked very strong at all. Tottenham have been hit or miss at points this season, so too Arsenal.
Yeah, but it's only been 4 games, and Arsenal, Spurs and Man United will still make top 6. No matter what, they'll always end up there.
I don't know if this is my fandom or whatever. I'm not sure I am as confident as you are about Manchester United.
Have they ever not made top 6?
Yeah, I think under Mourinho or under the Moyes season, I feel like they've definitely finished further back.
They finished outside the Champions League places.
I think they've definitely finished outside of, like, maybe they barely got a Europa League spot by like fair play points or whatever. But they finished a decent way down there.
In my mind, even a bad season for Man United or Spurs, if they finish like 8th or something, it would be just absolute catastrophe.
Yeah,
it just seems unthinkable to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think, but like not United, but like Chelsea have done that. Like with the Mourinho, his final season, they were near the relegation zone for large stretches of that season. So I take your point that like maybe those teams end up finding their way in, but I think Chelsea is the other one that, given the transfer ban, given the lack of depth, and in certain places lack of like high quality for Chelsea,
and just the willingness to play a bunch of young players like Mason Mount and Tammy
Abraham.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think that at least that one spot in the top 6 is kind of up for grabs. So then it goes to Shreyas's like the specifics of the question of, do they have the squad? And that is probably where like we will have. It will be revealed, obviously, by the end of the season, but I feel like midway through we'll know how deep Leicester are. Because that starting 11, they've got a strong starting 11. They've got some players in there that I think Chelsea would happily start in their 11 and feel stronger for it. But do they have the depth to deal with, say, an injury to Jamie Vardy, or if Kasper Schmeichel broke a finger? Is their reserve goalkeeper as good as Kasper Schmeichel? Can they weather that sort of storm? That I'm less inclined to believe.
They do have starting 11 players that I'm really excited about.
Oh yeah,
James Maddison and Ben Chilwell,
Yuri Tielemans.
Yeah,
more on him in a little bit
for a while.
Yep.
Oh, in scouting, yeah,
yes sir.
Excellent. So yeah, I mean they have high quality players, but you're right, we don't know about the depth of their squad, mostly because we're not that familiar with the Leicester 30. You know what I mean?
Speak for yourself.
I'm impressed by, like, say, Harvey Barnes, this guy who was on loan at West Brom last year, who's been having some cameos for Leicester this season in the Premier League, and I think look pretty good. So there are guys like that, but I couldn't give you a list of like 10 players that round out the Leicester squad and make an argument for or against them having a deep enough squad to finish top 6.
Yeah, and so with that in mind, I think we're talking nuances here, but I think that's what makes this season really interesting to me, is that, like, I think it will be Liverpool and City vying for the title. I do think probably Wolves, obviously. I do think Tottenham and Arsenal are probably kind of safely in that conversation. And then I think it's
for top 4.
Yeah, but like you could make an argument to me that Wolves will finish 4th or 5th, and I probably wouldn't disagree with you. Like I think it's going to be much more open-ended in those kind of final few European spots than it's been in the past, and I think it could kind of go any number of ways depending on injuries or managerial firings or players finding their form at the right moment. And I think that's going to make it a very compelling season in a way that I don't usually care about, like the race for the top 4. This season, I think it will be much more interesting because I think there's going to be big swings.
Also, we'd be remiss if we didn't note that there is that time that Leicester won the Premier League.
Also that.
Not so long ago. So to talk about them being a dark horse top 6, and we're asking if that's even possible, they finished number 1 not so long ago.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's so crazy that almost seems like a fever dream that didn't actually happen. You know what I mean?
I mean, because the next season they went decently far in the Champions League, but it wasn't as though they were like repeating. There was any chance that they were going to repeat. I mean, they fired Ranieri the next season. So like, I think that's probably why it goes away, because it does feel a little bit...
It's a fairy tale one-off. That's why it's so glorious.
But it feels like a fluke, even though it's a fluke that lasted for 38 weeks. Like, that's what makes it sort of strange.
All right, thank you for that question, Shreyas. Thank you to everybody for today's questions. We enjoyed answering all of them. If you have a question for us, it's totalsoccershow.com/questions. Link will be in the show notes. Click on that link, ask us a question. If you subscribe at $10 a month or more...
I'm doing the show notes today, so I'm writing that down.
Yes, please do. If you subscribe at $10 a month or more, we will answer at least one of your questions per month on the show.
And what happens if you choose to support the show at any level, Daryl?
At any level, you join the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network.
Yeah, you do.
Which has been around for, 3 or 4 years now?
It has.
There are players aging out of it. Players who've aged out
there,
of it.
There are players who have definitely aged out of it. Yeah.
There are some who've retired from professional football.
Also that.
Yeah.
Or just kind of faded away.
Yeah, some didn't quite make it.
We've got many, many scouting reports to get to today. We're going to start with Brian Hoysa. We already did that one. It's Sergino Dest. You better play for the USA or I'm going to be very, very sad. Zachary Lindquist scouting Jackson Ewell, the 22-year-old American midfielder for San Jose.
Okay.
Zachary says, it's difficult to write scouting reports for Ewell. His impact on games isn't often seen in goals or assists. Instead, this season, he keeps racking up passes that split 5 defenders.
Packing stats like you and Joe were talking about.
Yep, and send an attacker forward. His weakness from previous seasons of failing to track runners through midfield seems to have been mitigated by Almeida's man-marking system. So I guess overall, a very positive season, and that's, I guess, kind of obviously evidenced by him being included in the squad.
We might see him play for the national team over the next couple of weeks or so.
Uruguay feels like the one that would be most likely for that one. But
some appearance against Uruguay.
We shall see.
Thank you, Zachary. That's a really good scout report.
It was.
Elijah Chappell is scouting Joe Willock, the 19-year-old English midfielder for Arsenal. Elijah says Willock played as a central midfielder paired with Guendouzi in Arsenal's 2-1 win over Burnley. He had 3 good passes in the final third, but his inexperience showed as Arsenal's defenders had to direct him to get further forward, because Willock was playing... Stannis failed. Because Willock was playing too close to the back line to be an outlet for pressure.
Can you do me a favor? Can you push your glasses up when you do that next time? Thank you. Nerd. As though I would never, ever be pedantic about grammar.
What's worse, I still don't know if I was right or wrong.
That's the best part.
Father is went to measurable
James
distance,
Porter is scouting Oliver Skipp, an 18-year-old English midfielder for Tottenham. No, go ahead. What were you saying? Oliver Skipp is the captain of the injury time substitute team. Oliver got off the bench in the dying minutes of Spurs matches against Villa and Man City. A loan move seemed certain at the start of the year, but given Pochettino's comments about fighting hard in all competitions, we may see Willock be in pole position to play as a substitute or possibly get some starts in domestic cup competitions.
And then further as if it's not measurable.
Okay, that makes sense. I will keep reading, sir.
Danny Makaga is scouting Oliver Batista Maya.
I want someone to explain this kid to me.
The 18-year-old German-Brazilian.
Yes.
I think I just explained it to you.
Yeah.
Left winger for Bayern Munich. Danny says, after recording 1 goal in 4 starts for Bayern 2, OBM, Oliver Batista Maya, was sent to play with the U19s. In 3 games there, he recorded a goal and assist against Kaiserslautern and another assist against Hoffenheim.
All right, well done, OBM. Ira Jersey scouting Ashley Sanchez, 20-year-old American attacker for UCLA. Before I read the report, I should note, if you haven't heard it or seen it or listened to it or whatever, Ira did 2 shows with us this week, sort of. He did the Top Drawer Soccer Show with me, where we looked at some of the best young talents in USL League One. Then he also did Richmond Kickers Weekly, where we got into the Kicker season so far, as well as the season to come for them, the remaining season. So 2 good shows there. And then Ira has been a long-term supporter of the show.
Yeah.
And in this case has been scouting Ashley Sanchez, 20-year-old American attacker for UCLA. Ashley had a strong start to the season, notching the Bruins' first goal of the season, a game winner against Iowa State. Ashley collected a pass about 25 yards out, took a quick outside of the right foot touch to open up space, and banged a hard shot toward the goalkeeper. She then beat 4 defenders to send in a low-driven cross to assist for another UCLA goal. Again, strong start to the season. 2 days later, she assisted on the lone goal as the Bruins beat Long Beach State. She then got on the score sheet for the 16th consecutive game in the Bruins' 2-1 win over number 1 Florida State. Ashley made an easy pass to Canadian international Jessie Fleming, who hit a screamer from about 25 yards out.
So she scored in 16 consecutive games?
I think she's been on the score sheet, which means either scored or gotten an assist. I was confused by that as well.
I see, yeah. So you're on the sheet if you get an assist. Okay. Still good.
It's a weird, like, you're on the statistically good sheet. Doesn't sound as good, but is probably more accurate.
You're in the good books.
Yeah, there we go.
Steve Renard is scouting Yuri Tielemans, the 22-year-old Belgian midfielder for Leicester City.
Never heard of him.
Steve says Tielemans played the full 90 in Leicester's 2-1 win over Sheffield United. In the 38th minute, he played a beautiful part in Jamie Vardy's goal without ever touching the ball. Sheffield lost the ball just inside their own half, and it was headed towards Tielemans, but he left it for Maddison and continued his own run toward the box. With Tielemans and another Leicester player drawing defenders away, Maddison sent the ball through onto Vardy's foot for the goal. I see. Tielemans then went a step further this past weekend, correct? Notching a goal and an assist in Leicester's 3-1 win over Bournemouth. Yuri continues to get into good positions, make good passes and good decisions, and follow up on attacking plays.
There we are. Well done, Steve, for that scouting report. Well done, Daryl, for reading that scouting report. John Ramaswamy, scouting Sam Rogers, 20-year-old American center back for the Tacoma Defiance. I often start reading the names before I've actually read the names. That gets you into trouble. Take a breath, read the name, is what I've learned. John Ramaswamy, scouting Sam Rogers. Big Sam returned from a 3-week trial with Belgian club Standard Liège without a deal. The two clubs could not agree on a fair value for the transfer, so Rogers will continue with the Defiance for the rest of the season. That said, I think he is out of contract the rest of the year, so he could get a homegrown offer from the Sounders, or he could move abroad to seek international employment instead.
International employment. Scott Glack is scouting Jorge Acosta, the 19-year-old American midfielder for the Austin Bold. It's a USL team, right? Acosta has signed with USL side Austin Bold
there we go.
for the rest of the season.
My favorite aspect of the scouting reports.
No. He was previously with youth/reserve teams of Boca Juniors, and there was some unsubstantiated chatter that Inter Miami were interested in him. Proof that Daryl does not read ahead. We have two different styles.
Every now and then you do, though. Every now and then you're like fully up to date on every scouting report we've gotten.
But it's because I've like seen it on Twitter.
Okay,
it's because I'm like up on the news as opposed to I've read through the scouting reports.
All right.
Yeah.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite tradition. It makes me happy every time. Steve Haller scouting Miles Robinson, 22-year-old American center back for Atlanta United. After a standout start to the season with Atlanta United, Miles has solidified himself as a central defender in the 3-man backline for the Five Stripes and could soon make his debut with the U.S. men's national team.
He sure could.
He might could.
Robert Newman is scouting Mason Mount, 20-year-old American midfielder for Chelsea. Robert says...
I made him American in there. That's on me. English midfielder.
Sorry
about
Mason
that one.
Mount. Yeah, unfortunately, right? It'd be great if he was American.
See, this is what I get for making fun of you. I then make copious mistakes.
Mason Mount, 20-year-old English midfielder for Chelsea. Robert says Mount scored his first Premier League goal in Chelsea's 3-2 win over Norwich. He played on the left wing but was still effective cutting inside and interchanging with Christian Pulisic. This is a while ago. Mount's performances to start this season earned him a call-up to his second ever call-up to the England national team for the Euro 2020 qualifiers against Bulgaria and Kosovo. I'm guessing it's not Robert's fault that Norwich report is out of date. It's our fault for not reading scouting reports fast enough.
Decent chance.
Yeah,
decent chance. Jaron Wright scouting Justin Glad, the 22-year-old American center back for RSL. Justin was named to the 24-man U23 roster for the September friendlies after being dismissed from senior camp earlier this year. This is a step in the right direction for Glad, who has been getting a lot of praise from RSL fans who have noticed that the team performs much better when he's in the starting 11.
Right, so Justin Glad's on the comeback trail.
Yes, Jaron did ask if this meant, because Jaron wasn't sure if him being called into this camp would mean that he could play in the Olympics because he might be too old at that point. So we're not sure entirely on like birth year, birth date. That always kind of throws me off a little bit. But I would assume that if he's called into this camp, it means he's eligible for the Olympic team.
Yeah, or at least for the qualifiers.
Yeah. Okay.
So we should look into that.
We probably should.
Mike and Max Outschuler are scouting John Choo Choo Hilton, the 18-year-old American right back for... Mike and Max say, we have Choo Choo news. Having recently turned 18, Choo Choo signed a professional contract with VC Volendam of the Dutch Eerste Divisie. That's the second tier. Hilton made his first start with Volendam's U19 team on August 31st, going the full 90 in a 3-1 loss to Almere City in the Dutch Cup.
He's somewhere. He signed somewhere.
He's had like this long and confusing track where he couldn't get a work permit, but he was training with Dutch teams, but he couldn't sign a professional contract because of employment situation. So it's good that he's just finally signed a professional contract.
Yeah. I mean, I think it probably relates to the just having turned 18.
Yes.
Probably was the big hurdle there.
I believe that is it.
That makes sense.
That is it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you to everybody for the scouting reports. If you'd like to join the Scouting Network or do the $10 a month listener question thing, TotalSoccerShow.com/join, JOIN. TotalSoccerShow.com/join.
Look at you spelling like a champ.
Is the URL to go to.
What a baller.
Thank you.
You're so good at spelling.
TAYLOR. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
We'll be back later
BUDDY.
tonight. We'll be back later tonight to watch the GAME.
Oh, God. What have I done?
USA Mexico and review that game. Listeners, thank you for listening, and we hope you'll come back and listen again tonight.